Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Family First Show. I'm so excited to be here tonight with David McBee, who is the author of a book called Everyday Lessons Every Day, A Journey from Grumpy to Grateful. David, hopefully you are not grumpy tonight, are you?
Not at all.
Awesome. That's great news. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me as a guest.
Awesome. So David, tell me a little bit about yourself, a little bit about what you do, what your background.
Well, I am an internet marketing sales trainer and consultant, and I basically teach people about internet marketing and how to sell it and how to buy it.
That is awesome. And since we're here on the Family First Show, we want to say hello to everybody who's watching. Don't know if you'll be up with your family at this hour, depending what's going on with the interesting situation around the world. But thank you to all of you who are watching. So David, tell us a little bit about your family. Who is it composed of? Who's your tribe?
Well, normally I would start oldest to youngest, but my youngest is standing right here and she wants to be on camera. So
hi.
This is Zoe McBee. She's queen of TikTok.
Ooh.
She is oh my God. She's a freshman and a softball player, a percussionist, and basically a little clone of me when I was her age, which is quite challenging. There's been days I just called my mother sometimes and just apologize. And she says, for what? And I said, for just being a teenager. Thank you, Zoe.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
See you later.
Bye, Zoe.
I have a son. He's 19. He's not interested in being on camera right now. He's a little workaholic. I tell people he has the work ethic of a baby boomer. He's a landscaper. He works these 10 or 12-hour days. He's a machine. So he's awesome. And then my wife is her name is Emily, and she is a third grade teacher. She is just amazing with kids. She is incredibly supportive of me and the rest of the family. And I would describe her as the most patient person in the world.
That is so funny because my wife also, David, is a teacher, and she is also the most patient person in the world. So we are both lucky to have spouses. And I put out a post on LinkedIn today that said, very succinctly, spouses rule, which I think we can all agree with, right?
Absolutely. And teachers, they have to be patient, right?
Especially right now.
Oh yeah. It's a challenging time for them for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So how are you guys making out with these coronavirus times? What's the situation like in your household?
Well, in my life, I basically was 50% in-person training, traveling a lot. And then I spent the other 50% of my time here in my home office creating virtual training. So my life hasn't changed dramatically, except I just transitioned from 100% to virtual training. And there's been a lot of requests and a lot going into that. This is my world. So a lot of people are leaning on me right now to help them make that transition. My wife, I heard her doing a read aloud with her class virtually the other day, which was super cute. When she's in teacher mode, yours teaches older students, but yeah, my wife is just so adorable when she's talking to her kids. And then my daughter, like I said, she's just going stir crazy. Just social media is her whole life right now, as it is, I'm sure, for a lot of teenagers. Thank God for FaceTime, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think a lot of us have had different experiences online, not only with work, but in life. Like, for example, the other day we had a family dinner / game night with our friends over Zoom.
Yeah.
We had one phone set up over the board from our lights on the game board, and we had another computer on the end of the table.
That's so clever. I love it.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, so it must be interesting in your house having everybody home while you're also working, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that different from summer. In the summer, I have to establish some rules. You know, if my door is shut, that means I'm at work. If I leave my door propped open a little, it means I'm not working on a super important project, and I don't mind, visits here and there. But they're pretty good about respecting my space when I'm at home.
That's so cool. Boundaries are so important, I think, when especially when you're all at home and you're trying to get work done, right? Setting those boundaries is.
Well, I have to keep the boundaries because I'll go out there for a peanut butter sandwich and I'll sit on the couch and then like an hour of watching the Kardashians, I'm like, I got to get back to work. It's so dumb.
That's pretty funny. Pretty funny. So David, tell us about, you wrote this book, Everyday Lessons Every Day. Tell us, start out with the beginning of your journey. Why were you grumpy? And tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, basically, as I said, it's my job is pretty demanding. I spend a lot of time on the road, and when I'm not traveling, I'm working here. I got a lot of deadlines. I run a team of other trainers, and I have a lot of responsibilities. I think I'm not that different from a lot of men. I don't want to sound sexist. I'm definitely not. I know women have these high demand jobs as well, but I think men, for some reason, have a harder time balancing their career with their family. Women have a gift for that, I think. And I was definitely prioritizing my career. And I was trying to make money, trying to do the best at my job. I wasn't really being that much fun when I was with my family. I was actually nagging them about the stupidest, littlest things all the time. Dirty dishes. I have a teenager. She leaves her lights on. That's something that teenagers do. I got so crazy angry at her one day. I actually stole all the light bulbs in her room. Who does that?
What?
I mean, I was like wound up so tight. My nerves were and I was just picking at them, picking all the time. And then this one day I decided I was going to a business trip and I was saying goodbye to them, and they were all gathered around the kitchen island having breakfast or whatever. And it wasn't like one of those situations in the movies where everybody gives dad a hug and says, bye, have fun, where are you going, blah, blah, blah. They were just kind of like, see you later. And they kind of went back to what they were doing. And I got the sense that they really weren't that sad to see me go. It's sad. It's sad to say it out loud, but I got the sense that they were almost relieved that dad was leaving for a few days and that they could like relax and not feel like they had to walk on eggshells. And
Wow.
so
when was this, David?
This was almost 2 years ago, actually.
Okay.
I got on a plane, and it really got me thinking about that if I kept up in the same way that I was going, that I might lose them.
Gotcha. So at some point you turn to be more grateful, I guess, for your family, and you're trying to improve your relationship. So tell us about kind of the transition from this grumpy state to grateful. It probably didn't happen overnight, I'm guessing. Can you walk us a little bit through that?
It didn't. And in fact, I didn't even have a title for the book until I got to the end, because I didn't realize that's what exactly was happening. I just knew that I needed to make a change. And if I didn't make a change, I was going to lose them. So I have been a fan of self-improvement books for a long, long time. I started reading them in my early 20s. They've served me well to help me in business. I've been an entrepreneur over the years. They helped me with my relationships. So I figured I would just start there. I thought if I found some books that would help me with my anxiety, or books that would help me with my relationship, that maybe I could, salvage what was going on with my family. So I decided that part of my journey would be to read 20 minutes every single day from some kind of self-improvement book. And this is the important part, I would take what I learned from that book and I would act on it. I would do something to, really, truly change. I thought my logic was this, Tim. I thought if I treated my soul and my heart the same way that I treat my body, like feeding it properly, exercising regularly, then maybe I would be able to change that part of me that was truly hurting. And that's really what happened. Over the course of 6-7 months, I started lightening up. I started having fun. I became a better version of myself. I know it sounds simple, just read and then act on the lessons. That doesn't make it easy. Everybody knows they're supposed to eat right and exercise. That's simple. But it's also not very easy to do that. So it was definitely a journey of ups and downs. I definitely, if if you read the book, you'll see that I don't portray myself in the greatest light throughout the book. It's one of the things people tell me. They're shocked at how vulnerable I am in the book. And I don't know if it's weird to like put that out there, put your personal life on display like that, but I felt like it's what I had to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, you were saying that you read 20 minutes a day from a book. What are some of your favorite books that you've read during this journey?
I'm so glad you asked, and I actually have some of them here to share with you.
Awesome.
So for me and my anxiety and my anxious, well, I keep saying anxiety, but I was like just so picky, right? I decided to read this book. It's called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. It's a classic. I mean, it's been around for a long time, and the chapters are super short. They're like 1 or 2 pages, but it just makes you realize that everything is small stuff, and you shouldn't have to worry that much about all those different things. And then a newer version of that is called The Subtle Art of Not Giving. I won't say that out loud on a family show. But it's kind of like a newer, cooler way of saying don't sweat the small stuff. And those things were really big for me. And then I love Anything and Everything by Mel Robbins. Like, oh, by the way, nobody knows that I'm sharing these with you. It's not like a paid endorsement or something. I sound like Mel Robbins. And Mel Robbins is super cool. If you haven't read any of her stuff, she has some really cool stuff on Audible, but she doesn't pull any punches. Like, she really challenges her readers. And that's what I needed. It helped me truly change. And I adore her. For couples, I recommend The 5 Love Languages, which I don't have a copy of here. And then Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. These are just absolutely must reads. Have you read these? Have you read, those books?
I haven't, no.
Oh my God.
You recommend it?
Oh, every man should read this. Every man should read this. It just clears up so many things that are so obvious after you read it. And then you're like, whatever. And then for Miss Zoe, you could see she's a ball of energy. She's kind of challenging, but these are like the Bibles of dealing with teenage girls. So those are 2 of my favorites.
What is that called, David? I couldn't see under the banner.
That is Under Pressure and Untangled by Lisa D'Amour. And she understands teenage girls in a way that she has helped me so much. Thank you, Lisa. So those are some of the ones that I was reading. I have another pile of them that I'm reading right now. One thing I mentioned in the book is I don't read one book solid through because I'm kind of a slow reader. What I do is I realize, okay, I'm having a hard time with this relationship, and I find a book to help me with that. Or I'm having a hard time with this activity, and I find a book to help me with that. I was struggling with my mom. She's a senior, and dealing with senior age parents can be challenging. So I got a book called How to Say It to Seniors. I read like 12 pages of that book, and it stopped me from having fights with her. Like, I just understood her better. I tell people this all the time. The wisdom of the world exists within the pages of books. It's right there. All we got to do is open the books and read them, and we can solve so many problems. Every problem that we have has already been had by someone else. And then some people were brave enough to write their stories about that. And if we can consume that, if we can read that, if we can make that a part of our lives, then it can save us.
Those are such good points. And I would love to know, you guys that are watching, let us know if you have read any of these books that David just showed us. And if you haven't read those, what are some of your favorite books to improve yourself? We would love to know down below in the comments. So David, are there any ways that you intentionally put your family first? I know you work, now you're working from home, and your family is surrounding you. That's not normal for all of us all the time. But are there any ways that you intentionally put your family first in your day-to-day activities?
Yeah, I think that, there's an easy answer to that, right? That almost anyone could tell you that they need to draw a line between work and home. And when you're home, you need to focus on your family just as hard as you focus on work when you're at work, whether that's at a place you go to, a desk or a truck or whatever, or if it's in your house, it doesn't matter. That's totally true, but it's just too easy to just come home, you're exhausted, sit on the couch, have a drink, watch a show, and not really even talk to your family. Yeah. So the real answer to your question is there a time when I intentionally put my family first? There's a chapter in my book called Be Vacation Dad. And in it, I talk about a time we went on vacation and I unplugged from all my devices and I just said, this is about them. I want to pay them back for all the times that I was on the road and away from them. And so I spoiled them like crazy, right? I spent money on things I wouldn't have normally spent. $75 for a sweatshirt? Sure. But really what made Vacation Dad special was that he wasn't checking his phone all the time. He wasn't worried about email. He was really present with them, And so
I totally get that.
So what I do, Tim, is like even on a Saturday or a Thursday night, sometimes I try to remind myself, be more like Vacation Dad. You don't have to be on vacation because vacations don't come around that often. You can't just be present for your kids twice a year. So that's something that I try to do more of is be Vacation Dad during the weekends or just anytime really.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think especially now that we're all homebound, our phone is so accessible, our computer, our Netflix, right? Like we're all, probably a lot of us are consuming screens a lot more, I would guess, right now, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's definitely the same here. And I love how you brought up about the screen time and, like having that time that you're not on your phone, because here it's the same for me. I mean, I manage social media for clients, so I have to be on my phone quite often, but there are times when, like we're going to go out to dinner and I'm just leaving my phone at home because I don't want to be distracted. Like
You're better than me then. I can't leave it at home.
You can't leave it at home?
Oh, I would go nuts. I would shut it down or pause or turn it off, but leave it at home? Oh my God, that's strong.
It doesn't happen often enough though, but yeah. So let's see. How are you and your family dealing? Well, we talked a little bit about this with the times going on right now, how it's affected you, things have changed a bit. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I really think that it's about finding balance between, spending time at work, even when work is at home, and spending time with your family. And it's like, I teased about watching the Kardashians for an hour. I probably haven't really done that. But if I find myself doing something with them in the middle of the day, I just make that up in the middle of the night. That's kind of what I do. Like when they all fall asleep, I'll come back to my office and work. It's probably not that healthy. I wouldn't advise it to people, but I need to put in my time. And if I take time away, like I mowed the lawn today, right? I mowed the lawn between 2 and 3. Well, that's technically work hours, right? Yeah. So I got to make that up sometime. Either I got to get up early and get on my computer and work on a webinar, or I got to come back later and do it. But I tell people all the time, one of the tricks to being successful in a work from home environment is don't worry about the clock. Just get your work done. If it means you take a long lunch with your family on Tuesday, then skip lunch on Wednesday, right? But get your work done. Don't be married to a clock. Luckily, the company I work with is not, watching me like a hawk to see if I'm on from 9 to 5. In fact, they know I'm not. But I get my work done. So that's what matters.
Yeah, for sure. So I know you mentioned, David, that there were some stories I think you wanted to share, maybe some humorous stories from your book. Do you still want to do that? Sure,
yeah. My favorite chapter in the book, and the one I hear from people the most, is a chapter called Act Like the Dog. Okay. And each chapter is kind of like, I learn a lesson in a book, I write the lesson on my wrist, and then I kind of follow that lesson for a day or 2 or 3, and then I write what happened. That's what the book is all about, the lesson, the experience. Well, I realized one day when I came home from a long trip that, and again, I was grumpy back then, so I don't blame my family, but they didn't jump up to greet me, right? I'd been gone for 2-3 days, and that was pretty normal. They were in the middle of a show or something. They were pleasant, they weren't jerks about it, but the dog was going crazy. The dog missed me so much, whining and wagging her tail. And I was like, dang, I just feel so loved by this dog right now.
Awesome.
So I decided that would be the lesson of the day. And so I wrote ALTD, act like the dog, on my wrist. And the next day when my kids came home, when my wife came home, I just ran up to them and I was like, how was your day? How was your day? Oh, I missed you so much. And I hugged them and I was even wagging my butt a little bit. And they were like, what is wrong with you? They thought I was crazy, but they also admitted later that it made them feel really special, that I stopped what I was doing. I jumped out of my office and I went and spent 5 or 10 minutes just really, truly focused on them. And I think that's a great lesson to learn from your dog.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's a really great point too about, I think too, like the more time you spend with your kids, the more they're attracted to you in terms of, you know, like they want to spend more time with you because you're spending more time with them, you know?
Yeah.
I certainly have that experience. Last year, I got so sucked into my business that I really wasn't spending enough time with my family, which is why I started this show to, you know, have conversations about this kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that's a really good point.
I really admire you for doing a show like this. Like, I know that your normal podcasts are about social media and business and your entrepreneurism. So for you to take the time to really say, let's create a piece of content once a month that's about putting family first. I mean, more people should do that. More people should commit to that. So thank you, Tim. I appreciate that.
Oh, well, thank you, David. And it's just, my goal was really to, and still is, to really build up a community of parents who are also entrepreneurs that, you know, they share certain struggles, they share certain joys, you know, and they just want to share stories and, you know, learn from each other. So I appreciate that. And we want to say thank you. We have a ton of people watching over on LinkedIn. We have Nina watching. Hi, Nina.
Hi, Nina.
Jeff at Trigger. Marcello. Hi, Marcello. Donnie. Who else? Marcello. Thanks for all your comments, Marcello. Marcello says, David, thank you so much for sharing such a personal story with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes. So, David, tell us, how can people find your book?
Well, it's on Amazon. So that's probably the easiest place to find it. It's Everyday Lessons Every Day, a journey from grumpy to grateful. I also have a website, everydaylessonseveryday.com. And on my website, there's actually a new podcast. So I am continuing the journey. It's a little different now than in the book. In the book, you could really witness the changes happening. Today, the stories are more about a lesson and my take on the lesson, or how someone else used the lesson to impact me. So I hope people will like the podcast too. It's brand new and I'm still feeling a little bit vulnerable about it, but hopefully people will enjoy the podcast.
That's awesome. So tell people, how can they find out more information about you? How can they connect with you online?
Well, as I mentioned, my career basically is in internet marketing, and it has been for almost 20 years. So if you Google David McBee, I should be number one and number two and number three. I think I own a lot of the first page of Google for me. So, but I'm on Facebook, obviously, at David McBee, Instagram at David McBee, LinkedIn is at David McBee. See, I grabbed him up early before all the other David McBees. So
good for you.
If someone wants to find me, they shouldn't have too much trouble finding me.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, David, for taking time away from your family to be on the Family First show.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed being a guest, Tim. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. See you next time.